There's a relatively new trend going on all over the country. They're called First Amendment audits, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Now, this isn't terrorism, but you need to be able to distinguish between this and indicators and warnings of terrorism. This can happen to any department, large or small, and it can be an encounter that's brief and friendly, or it can be a career-ending encounter. I don't want that to happen to you. I'm going to tell you what they are, who's doing them, and the facts that you need to know to be able to respond. Let's go on inside and grab a seat. It's time for Counterterrorism Roll Call. Welcome to Counterterrorism Roll Call. I'm your host, Holt Clark. As I mentioned outside, today's topic is not about terrorism, but it could prevent a career-ending encounter. Today's topic instead is about First Amendment audits. Now, the name sounds official, but it's a self-directed, self-appointed action.
Yeah, the California Highway Patrol out here doing a First Amendment audit. See if the California Highway Patrol respects the citizens' right to record public officials and the performance of their duties on public property.
There are hundreds of these videos on YouTube. Just put First Amendment audit into the search bar and you're going to find them. I've watched hours of these videos. 90% of it is boring outside of buildings. But I want you to, number one, see the variety of clips that there are and how widespread this is. And number two, I want you to see the patterns that are there from both what we're going to call today the auditors and from law enforcement. My goal is not to call out either any auditors or any law enforcement officers, but for you to see examples of each of these. Now, let's talk about the what and the where. Number one, the what. The First Amendment audit is a civilian or group of civilians who are openly and conspicuously recording public buildings or public officials in the performance of their duties from public property. Now, some are very nonchalant about it, and as I said, are very conspicuous. Now, some can act a little bit more suspicious, maybe even coming at night and shooting in the dark. But neither of these change their rights. Sometimes they go in to inside the building and video in there, and they often even ask for a complaint form.
I was just wondering, how do you go about getting a complaint form?
I was just curious on the process of if you were to file a complaint on a deputy, what would you have to go about doing?
You'll most often see government buildings being audited. Police departments, courthouses, jails, post offices are a big one for them, border crossings, military sites, and a host of non-government facilities, but I'm not going to be addressing those today. Who's conducting the First Amendment audits? Now, at first I saw some mentions of sovereign citizen, but that doesn't seem to be the case. If anything, I think these people would call themselves constitutionalists, and they're definitely activists. Think about the Second Amendment activist who in a open carry state puts the AR-15 on his shoulder and walks down a busy street. Or the DUI checkpoint activist who rolls his window down a quarter of an inch and refuses to give basic information. Most of the time, though, they'll self-describe as independent news journalists.
I'm an independent news journalist, just gathering content for a story. News journalist, independent news journalist.
Some are non-confrontational, even friendly. Some are intentionally adversarial. But at heart, they're YouTubers, and they use a variety of a name News Now. So you'll find News Now America, News Now Tennessee, News Now whatever. And I think it gives them a little bit more professional sounding title to their YouTube channel. What they want is not video of a building. What they want is an encounter with a police officer. They call it contact.
Stick around for a few more minutes. Don't get any contact, I guess I'll call it.
Oh, look at this. We have contact finally.
So what's the real reason for a First Amendment audit? Well, if you ask them, they're going to tell you that they're defending or exercising their First Amendment rights. Maybe they believe law enforcement is tyrannical or corrupt. Perhaps they want to educate law enforcement. Other possibilities include they have a grudge against your department, or maybe they're hoping this audit will lead to a lawsuit. But then there's this multiplier that comes from YouTube. What drives YouTube is the desire for views, likes, and subscribers. And that just multiplies whatever their reason already is for doing that. And by the way, don't forget to like this video, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. Now, YouTube also drives a lot of similarities in this. There's not a centralized or organized effort to conduct these audits. However, YouTube creates this echo chamber where they watch each other's videos and then they go out and do whatever the other person did. It motivates them. So you're going to see very similar tactics. You're going to hear very similar language. And if there happens to be a bad encounter, then this person internalizes it and goes somewhere else. So that if A was treated poorly by XPD, then when B goes out to do a audit at YPD, he's going to start out with an attitude already. Now, essential for you to respond properly is to understand the law that goes behind this. Now, people have a constitutional right to record things that are plainly visible in public, including government buildings and government officials in the performance of their duties. Now, this doesn't include secure areas and maybe court orders like a courtroom where a judge says there's no video recording. Now, this is clearly backed up by case law. First, there's Glick versus Knife. That was a case where somebody was recording public officials in public places and they were sued and they lost. And the key thing here is the officers were denied qualified immunity by the judge. In Fields versus the City of Philadelphia, you have the same kind of thing where somebody was filming police officers in public. And then you have the New York Civil Liberties Union versus DHS, where somebody was filming federal property. Now, one of the things you're going to hear from these people is they often refer to a DHS memo that says they have the legal right to do this. This is in fact a memo from the division of DHS that's Federal Protective Services, which informs their officers about what I'm telling you about here. So yes, it's true, but it's not some blanket DHS statement. Now, when it comes to First Amendment audits, the next thing you need to be crystal clear on is your 3 types of encounters. The first one being consensual. You walk up, ask all the questions you want. They're free to leave as long as they stick around, and they don't even have to give you any information. Now, number 2 is the investigative detention, or the Terry stop. Now, here they're not free to leave, but you have to have a reasonable, articulable suspicion. You must be able to articulate specific and reasonable behaviors and facts that, based on the experience and training, you believe the person is committing or about to commit or already has committed a crime. Now, the third encounter is the arrest, and we're not going to be discussing that today. We're not going to get that far. We're going to spend most of our time on that second detention. Now, recording of a public building or public officials, as described in the cases earlier, is a First Amendment right and does not constitute suspicion of criminal activity. That is according to the ACLU. So you can't have reasonable suspicion of only a legal activity. Now, these encounters, or as they call them, contacts, much of the encounter is driven by the auditor in an attempt to force you into a detention decision. They're going to refuse to give their name, present ID, or answer any questions. They're going to try and get you aggravated and push you over the edge. Until they ask to leave, the encounter is still considered consensual, but they're going to ask repeatedly.
I'm not free to go.
I'm being detained. Am I being detained?
It also can end when you stop asking and start ordering them to do things. And of course, it will stop being consensual when there's physical restraint.
You're not going to
Hey,
the building.
get your hands off of me.
I don't have to get my hands off you, okay?
Are you detaining me, sir?
I'm not. I'm asking you.
Okay, well then I want to be on my way.
Come on. Hey, stop.
Get your hands off of me.
Come here. Come here.
Get off of me.
Relax.
You're not detaining me, but you want to put your hands on me?
Relax.
As I said, there's a pattern to these videos. You're going to ask for ID.
Can I see your ID, please?
Do you have your driver's license?
You have some identification with you?
They're going to refuse.
No, sir, you cannot.
Be sure you know your state laws. Even states that have stop and ID laws usually require reasonable suspicion. So again, legal activity is not reasonable suspicion.
Right now, we are investigating suspicious activity. That's what we're here for.
Which is not a crime.
Actually, it's probable cause for us to contact you.
Okay, correct.
So you're familiar with the law, so you know what probable cause is, correct?
I know what probable cause is.
Okay, that is probable cause for us to contact you.
Okay.
That's why we're here right now.
So this is non-consensual.
This is a non-consensual encounter.
Okay.
Because
Am I being detained?
Yeah, you're being detained right now.
Okay.
And they will definitely ask you for your name and badge number.
What's your name and badge number, sir?
Asking your name and badge number, sir? No. Since you're approaching me?
What's your name and badge number, sir?
They're going to invoke the right to remain silent, but they won't shut up. They're going to ask if they're being detained or free to leave, but they won't leave.
All right, sir. Well, I'm not going to give ID because I haven't done anything wrong.
Nobody says
I should just be free to go.
Then walk off property.
Can I go?
You can walk off the property.
And I'll be filing a complaint against you.
You get my name right.
I will.
They want you to give them a case of unlawful detainment. either for better video or to file a complaint or a lawsuit, or maybe all three.
Okay. It's just a little bit with the way things are going in America today.
This is where we move to my area of expertise, terrorism. I get asked, how do I know that this First Amendment audit is not an indicator or warning of terrorism? Certainly all the terrorism training teaches us that surveillance is an indicator and warning of terrorism. And I've studied lots and lots of terrorist groups all across the spectrum, and certainly all of them have some type of training and guidance on surveillance. But none of them have surveillance that includes this obvious confrontational style. They, the terrorists, want to stay off the radar. So absent of any other information, you only have the legal activity of the recording to act on. So treat this as a field investigation. Again, be clear on your state's laws and just don't take my word for it. Remember that you have them on camera, your body camera, your dashboard camera, the building's surveillance camera on the corner of the building. This encounter is really driven by their attitude, whether they want to be confrontational or not, but also on your attitude. How do you treat this? If you treat it as suspicious, if you tell them what you're doing is suspicious, that implies that there's something illegal or wrongdoing. But if you treat it as unusual, if you say, boy, we don't see a lot of filming of this ugly building, it becomes conversational and not confrontational.
People don't take pictures in here often?
No, not too often, especially videotaping and all that, which is totally fine by me. To me, it's unusual.
Once you have an idea that this is a First Amendment audit, be curious. They'll give you information. Ask them about their YouTube channel. Say, hey, I'd like to check it out. What's your channel's name? How many subscribers do you have? What's the video that you got the most views on? They'll talk your ear off about that. There's even videos where officers offer help. I'll show you around. I'll bring out my car and turn on the lights. It'll give you a good video. They don't want a video of you being helpful.
You're not doing anything wrong, man. I'm just checking on you.
Okay.
Just filming and stuff. Okay. I'm just checking out, making sure you're fine. You're free to walk around, do what you're doing, okay?
Yeah, and all that.
You're good, man. You're good, man.
Yep.
You feel free to exercise that right. I'm just coming out here and talking to you.
If you do it this way, you're going to get more information. You're going to look better on camera. There's going to be fewer people who copy that, and you're going to prevent complaints and lawsuits. See, this makes a boring video that doesn't get posted, it doesn't get views, and it does, if anything, it's going to get you the assessment of passed by the auditors.
Well, we need help, thank you. For all you police departments out there, you want to know how to respond to a person with a camera?
Finally, remember, you're being recorded. You have no control over the device recording you. You don't decide when it's uploaded, where it's uploaded, or how it's edited before it's uploaded. As a matter of fact, they might be live streaming you on Facebook or YouTube at the moment. As a matter of fact, the ACLU has an app that allows the auditor to upload directly to the ACLU while they're filming. This is in 17 states and the District of Columbia.
Tap record to film an incident. Stop recording by tapping the camera icon, and your video will automatically be sent to the ACLU.
And those are the facts that you should have to be able to respond to a First Amendment audit. Remember, know your state's laws. And if you think it's an audit, think unusual and not suspicious. Ask lots of questions. And remember, they want an outrageous video, so don't give them one. Until next time, be alert, stay safe, and keep moving forward.